Gordon, tell us about your upbringing, your humble beginnings.
Sure, sure. Well, I grew up in the city of Philadelphia, in what some would call the inner city. My father eventually owned his own business as a barber, but in those days he also worked in a barber shop. He worked for a construction company. He had a number of odds and ends that he would do to sustain the family. And I think I got his sense of commitment to work, commitment to excellence, working hard, both seeing him and learning from him. That's what you need to do. And I was fortunate that my mother, for a large degree, was able to stay home and to make sure that my brother and I, followed the straight and narrow. So she was a tough lady, and she made sure that we did not follow some of the things that were going on in my community. We had gang wars. We had number of things that were going on that could have caused you to go in another direction. As I think about that, some of my friends and peers, some of whom I think even today were brighter than I, and the potential that they had to be successful, but because they encountered and followed in the wrong direction, they ended up in jail or penitentiaries or other kind of places, or not even living. And I think it was that nurturing and support and kind of tough love that I got from home that steered me in a direction where I didn't go that way.
So you had to start making decisions about what you wanted to do and how you wanted to get there.
Mm-hmm.
How did that develop?
Well, I think initially I was looking at some mentors and role models in my community. So you had to look at, okay, who can you mirror that's in your neighborhood? I think that's something that I always remember, that when you achieve something in life, that you have to remember also that others who are not at that point in their life are looking at what you do very closely as they try to figure out, where do I want to go and who do I want to be like? So that role model position in the world is extremely important. And in my community there, one of my next door neighbors who ended up at one point running for mayor of the city of Philadelphia, he was not successful, but he and his brothers were, the athletes, the scholar athletes in the neighborhood. They went on to college, and he was my next door neighbor. And I said, God, I would love to be. Plus, he had the girls. I said, I would love to be like that.
Yeah.
So that was really an inspiration for me. So I looked at people like that in my community initially in terms of, what I want to be like to be successful and what the success looks like. And it wasn't also the fact that he was making money, but it also the fact that he was a tutor. He came back to support and help others within that neighborhood community. He actually tutored me in math. So I understood that, you can be successful, but you also have to give back in that regard as well. So that's something that motivated me as I continued in my career. One, to be successful, to do well, but also remember that part of that also means giving back. So I internalized those things.
So your parents helped set a firm foundation
Correct.
for you. Then you had to get out on your own.
Correct.
How did you decide where you wanted to go, what you wanted to do?
I think early on I was, I don't know if I say a child of the struggle, but I played, in college, there were a number of things that I was focusing on. I followed Malcolm X at one point in my life. I followed the Martin Luther King. In fact, there was a tension in my life in terms at one point in terms of their different philosophies and approaches, and I struggled with that. I went to school at Linton University in Pennsylvania, and I remember the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King at the time, and remember walking across the campus, and one of my friends, who knew that I had also followed Malcolm X to a large degree, said, well, you were always talking about, we need to be very aggressive, and you were not necessarily an advocate and a supporter of Dr. King's philosophy. And I said, I realized, very recently that both of them had different approaches but wanted to go the same place. And they also understood they were vital to each other. As Malcolm was knocking on the door from the external place, Dr. King knew that he had the ability to negotiate within, and that neither one of them would not have been successful without each other. And I said that even in their own careers, they recognized that at one point, and they began to talk and recognize their value. So, those kind of things are really important in terms of how I begin to see myself as I maneuver through my career.
You've been obviously successful through the years. You've done wonderful things. You've got family, you've got smart children.
Great children.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. How would you sum up your life at this point?
I've been blessed. I have been blessed, and I continue to be blessed every single day. I've been given tremendous opportunities, and those opportunities have been provided by people who are no longer here. They have provided opportunities for me to go places where they could not go, and they want to ensure that they knew they would not be able to go, but that I would be able to go for them. And they prepared me for that and gave me that blessing. So to that regard, I've been successful in carrying their agenda forward through my life. And as I'm looking in the winter of my life and starting to look at my own legacy, I'm beginning to look at what are the things that I now will be able to do that allows my life to carry forth in its afterlife through some others. So I'm beginning to focus a lot on that these days right now.
You also were in the Clinton administration.
That's correct.
What was your field of expertise?
Well, public transportation, obviously. I came to the attention of the Clinton administration in an interesting way. I was involved in passing the first dedicated funding program for transportation in Pennsylvania. So that gave me some national attention. But also I became aware at some point when I was involved in the president's campaign when he ran for president, because I was impressed with his interest in the infrastructure. But something happened along the way. I had not planned to get involved in his administration. I wasn't planning to take a job at all. And I found out later on that my name had been submitted to his transition team to be considered the Federal Transit Administrator. One of the ways in which my name got to his transition team was through Comto. That Gail Holliday was on the transition team from Comto and several others. That was one of the ways in which my name got to the president for consideration for this position.
So Comto has been an integral part of your time in transportation.
Absolutely.
So what should it mean to others who are considering coming into the field?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, that you'll get exposure to the multiplicity of options that are available in transportation. You'll also get a chance to learn from those who have gone before you, who have achieved a lot, but who've also gone through and met some of the challenges that you will meet as you go through your career.
And what were some of those challenges for you?
Trying to get a real grasp of the industry, getting a real grasp of all the multitude of challenges that the industry will be meeting, and also trying to find my niche. How can I take my skill set and find a vital role and place for it within that industry. And Comto has been very helpful in that.
We're celebrating the 43rd anniversary of Comto. Do you think there will ever be a time when there will not be a need for an organization like Comto?
Probably not. There will always be challenges. Even today, as we see our country getting to the point where you can have an African American as president, you still see all of the strikes and all the challenges that an African American faces as president because he is African American. So even at one hand, we've made a number of victories. There are still similar challenges that are still existing today. So that sense of advocacy for minorities to have their seat at the table as Julie would always say, will continue. And in that regards, there will always be a need for Comto. But there's also a need for coming equipped to do the job. It's not enough to say, okay, I've been disadvantaged to a large degree because of my ethnicity or because of my gender, but when the opportunity comes, you have to be ready and prepared when the door is open. And the kind of professional development that Comto also provides, make sure that when the doors open, you are ready to take charge. And that comes from being involved in this organization as well.
I'm writing this down because I think this is going to be very key as we talk to our new and emerging leaders. We've got the intern program, and we're talking to our new and emerging leaders. What words of advice, wisdom would you give them as they prepare their careers in transportation?
Well, one that I always, when I talk to young people, I talk about every time you get an opportunity, no matter how small, make sure that you shine. Don't think that that anything that you do is something that you can do mediocrely. You have to make sure that you put forth your best. And also treat people as you would want them to treat you. Recognizing that those bridges are bridges that will someday will support you as you're moving forward. And the third thing I would say is to make sure that you develop a good reputation. That reputation is something that you can develop, but it's also something that you can destroy. And you have the ability to control that, and it will actually guide you and help you as you go forth in your career.
Gordon, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your words of wisdom.
Thank you for having me.